Hey, everybody. What's going on? Yes. It's Thursday night. You're here. We're here. Everybody here. It's Vault Talks Women Share. Super excited, as we always are, every Thursday to be with you guys. So, with that being said, what's going on, Isha the influencer? How are you on tonight?
I am doing great. This week has been actually good, which is a change for me. So I'm excited, just focusing on me more and loving myself, getting to know me, and just executing things that I need to get done. So this has been a good week for me.
Amen. Did it? Amen. Did it? For me, ditto. Just sometimes being out of your own environment, being in a different environment as I am this week, it has really allowed for me to do some reflecting and do some inner work to really kind of figure out some things and kind of put some other things into perspective for my life and the journey that I'm on, career wise, everything. And so it's interesting. It's really dope to really spend that time with yourself to be able to unlock things that have always been there. But sometimes you just got to shift just a little bit to the right to actually be in alignment with those things. And so that's been my week. Just been a huge week of reflecting. I see the guests coming in. Yes. I'm getting excited. Okay, let me calm down. Okay, so there's so much going on in the world of Vault Talks Women Share. But first of all, thank you guys so much. There's tons of things you guys can be doing on Thursday night, and you're here with us, and we do not take that for granted. We don't at all. So, for those of you who are new to Vault Talks Women Share, thank you for tuning in. Vault Talks Women Share is indeed a platform where women can come together to learn more and share more about matters that pertain to their world. It's indeed on this platform where we talk about relationships, entrepreneurship, sisterhood, and tonight we're talking about relationships. Okay, let me get back. But we talk about all things for women and how important that is. So, with that being said, I am going to do what I was going to do later on, but I'm going to do it now. So we have a huge announcement that Vault Talks is really excited about. So for those of you who are active followers with Vault Talks Women Share, last month we celebrated 3 whole years of being in existence. And what people don't know about any type of show, whether it be a radio show or a show like this, there's so much that happens behind the scenes in order for it to even take place, have a heartbeat, be coddled, be breastfed, now it's walking, it is running, so these moments and these transitions, and it's huge. So one thing that we know, we could not be as successful as we are on this platform without our viewers. So thank you for those of you who tune in week after week after week, whether it's live or on the replay. Please hear our hearts. We are so elated that you are a part of the Vault Talks family, and we could not do this without you. So with that being said, we have a huge announcement where we are literally going to be on another station, African American broadcasting station, and we're really excited about that. But in order to do so, we have to change our time. So starting in May, not next week, because we actually have a bonus Thursday, which is super exciting. Next week is our bonus Thursday. So not next week. The first Thursday in May, we will be starting at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, which is 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So starting in May, here we go. We're excited. Same great show, different time. We want to make sure that you guys are there with us. So make sure that you adjust your schedules accordingly. We want to make sure you're in the building. We want to make sure that you are still understanding what we're doing on this platform, and it's changing lives one message at a time. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and do what we always do. Quietest quote time with Isha the influencer. Let's go. I'm excited. Let's get
it. This topic for tonight was very interesting to me, and I can't wait to see what the guests have to say. But just based off the topic, here is my quote. So the quote for tonight is: transformation is always a possibility, but only for but only a product for the willing. It's only produced by, I'm sorry.
Ooh.
Transformation is always a possibility, but only produced by the willing.
Let me go ahead and just give you a little snippet of where this came from. So anybody that knows me knows that I'm a thinker. And, I heard the saying, or people have heard the saying time after time after time after time, that you hear the saying, you can't turn a hoe into a housewife. We hear that often. But what we don't hear is can you turn a hoe into a husband? We don't talk about that. That's not in the normal conversations.
Not so much.
No, not so much. But it's always about the women. And so I was like, well, why is that? I said, you know what? We're going to talk about that on He Said, She Said, They Share. And so I have not lost my mind, people. For those of you who may be holier than thou, go ahead and clench your pearls, whatever you need to do. Go pray in your prayer closet for me, whatever you feel. But I'm just being real, because these are conversations that are out here and no one's talking about them. And so if you are new to Vault Talks Women Share, welcome to a real platform. We talk about everything. Last week, let me put this plug in here real quick. If you missed last week, go back to the archive. Go check out our YouTube channel. We talked about Church Unplugged. We brought it back and we killed it. It was amazing. Church Unplugged was a segment that we had when we were a radio show. So for those of you who may be newer to Vault Talks, we were a radio show first for about a year and a half before we changed over to be a live stream show. And so this was one of the hottest topics next to He Said, She Said, They Share, because we talked about things that needed to be talked about. We talked about things in the church world that people weren't talking about or they skated around. So we really wanted to be highly intentional about what people need to really be able to prosper in that life. So last week we talked about come as you are. Does that really exist? So it was super juicy, super informative. And so for those of you who may have missed it, go to the archive, go to our YouTube channel, Vault Talks Women Share. You can't miss it. So people have literally been inboxing me. Are we going to create a sequel to that? Are we going to give solutions around that? Yes, we are. Stay tuned. We will definitely tell you when it's going to go down. And so, I love that because it just really shows that the viewers are really engaged in a conversation like that. Mm-hmm. I'm not even kidding. People that I didn't even think watched the show were watching. I had no clue. So, it says a lot about what we do here on this platform. So with that being said, transformation is always a possibility, but only produced by the willing. I think this is a good time for us to bring our guest up. I'm going to go with the queen here. She goes by the name of Onyx. Here she is. Thank you for tuning in, love.
Hey, y'all.
Hey.
Thank you for having me.
What? Wait, look
you
here.
Family, you know that.
Right. Exactly. Thank you, Keisha. And we couldn't have Onyx without having our brother on the show. Let me tell you about this dude. No matter where we are, if we're on Clubhouse, he hopping in and he's showing us love. If we here on the show, he hopping in, he's showing us love. If we on our own personal lives, he's hopping in, showing us love. So I love that about this amazing cat here. Marcus Norman, come on up, sir. The king.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Y'all, we couldn't do this without you, sir. So he's the doctor of relationships. The doctor. If anybody follows him, he always got something juicy. If it ain't a black chick with her booty being snugged by her boo, like he had the other day, asking if this was appropriate or not, he's having content around things that people need to be talking about. And it's funny. So on StreamYard, I can see how many people are tuned in. And when I'm saying certain things, people are bouncing out. You know what? This is a platform for the real. It is what it is. So buckle your seatbelts on. Let's go for the ride. So Onyx, transformation is always a possibility, but only produced by the willing. Let's go.
So I agree and I disagree with that.
Come
I
on.
think that so people are often willing sometimes, but they don't know what their underlying issue is. So it has to be beyond willing to change. Sometimes you got to be willing to do the work or go the extra mile, because sometimes people want to change for people all the time, right? But they don't know what they don't even know that they have baggage. So unless they can unpack that baggage, their willingness isn't going to mean anything.
Mm,
Woo.
mm,
Marcus, darling.
mm,
Marcus,
mm,
what do
mm.
you have for us?
So, can you repeat the question again? Can I phone a friend?
You go to friend.
Yeah,
No.
no, that was good.
Transformation is always a possibility, but only produced by the willing.
Absolutely. So yeah, you have to be willing to change. No one can change who you are, right? A lot of times when we enter relationships, when we enter things, we try and change them for the better. We try to change our kids. We try and change our surroundings. We try and change a lot of different stuff, and we fail to realize that that is out of our control most of the time, and we have to change on our own. People change willingly, right? You can't change someone. The only person that we have an effect on is ourselves. You can only change you. And so it's up to you to say, I like this situation, I like this circumstance, so I will stay. And if I don't like what I'm seeing, if I don't agree with what I'm seeing, then I need to leave and remove myself from that space. If I don't like my job, I need to quit and find another one. If I don't like my man or my woman, I need to leave, right? And unfortunately, if I don't like my marriage, I need to end it. Right. But stop sitting here trying to say, well, if I have one more child, he'll change. If I have one more relationship, they'll change. If I have one more gambling addiction, if I have one more hit on this lotto ticket, I'll win. No, it's not going to happen. The only person you can change is yourself. And you have to do that willingly.
Absolutely. I like how you approach that, just saying that, when we look inward, when we see things that we don't like, we have to come to us first instead of trying to change that thing. I mean, that it even says that in the Bible. So you have to, really look at you and what you have control of and what you're able to change. So yeah, I agree with that perspective.
Absolutely. And I agree with everything that's been said. And this is why I love what we do so much, because yes, thank you, Marcus. Thank you. I was talking to someone today, and I reflected. I'm like, man, I really love having my show. Like, I love it because we can come on here and say just about anything. It's our platform. It's not something that we have to skate around and things of that nature. We're coming into an age where people are tired of skating around crap. They just need the real deal so they can really know that they can transform into be whoever it is that they desire to be according to their will. You know what I'm saying? So, this topic is so juicy because, like I said, a lot of times there's so much emphasis on women being this certain kind of product or this certain kind of image. And what about the men? Y'all do more than we do. Real talk. If we really want to reveal the veil. But the thing is, women are seen in such a light to where, if we have a one night stand or if we have side pieces, then we automatically labeled a hoe. Like, what's up with that?
I don't know. So what, Miss Onyx, ladies first, if you want to jump on that.
No, you can go ahead. I'll follow up with you, sir. Go ahead. I'm not going to take it off. Go ahead and get right in that hot seat.
Yeah, it's hot.
It's hot. It is fire. It's fire. So yeah, you're right. There is that lack of balance and that lack of perspective that men are failing in that regard, right? And it's a double standard. We're not meeting the expectation. We're putting out the expectation that I can't marry a hoe or I can't be with this person, but we're not following that same example, right? The biggest example that we all just experienced is Derek Jackson. Man sold books. Man made money. Man had a whole following off of the upliftment of our women. And then to go and cheat on one is a huge disgrace and a huge falsehood. And so the man was living an extreme lie. And so it's not being met. It's putting out as a double-edged sword, and we're not meeting the same expectation that we're putting out. So we are out there. Men are to blame. I hold men accountable for a lot of the mishaps in men, because as leaders, as providers, as caretakers to our home, we need to take charge. And when we are absent and when we are missing from certain areas and certain spaces, then everything falls to the Reichert. And so I hold men at a higher regard, and I hold them responsible for a lot of the mishaps that we see in society today.
Well, well, I would say that men are meeting the standard because they said it. They're the ones that came up with the whole paradigm of you can't turn a hoe into a housewife and boys will be boys. I think the issue came along when we decided that we were going to agree with it, and then we began to build ourselves based on a standard that men
Wow.
set for us. So they set a standard for themselves and they set a standard for us. And then we said, in order to be with a man, we have to fit into this little paradigm that they created for us, and that's maybe not who you are. So I do agree that men should be held to a higher standard, but I do think that we all have responsibility in that, because you can either go along with the status quo or you can break the will.
Absolutely, we absolutely can. And I mean, what's the concept is, and what that stigma comes with, right? So you can't turn a hoe into a housewife. So when a woman is sleeping around, she's considered a hoe. But what's a man considered when he sleeps around? He's considered a player,
Man.
right? He's considered a player. So he's praised for doing the exact same thing, and that's the problem, right?
Yeah.
We've put the wrong thing. We're not holding the same accountability for our women, for our men, and so that's what needs to change.
It's praised by men and it's accepted by women, and that is a whole huge issue right there. And I mean, I was even guilty. I lived my life based on, I didn't want to be labeled a hoe, so I did things that went and labeled me a hoe. You know what I mean? Even though I had to get to a point where I was okay with my own skin, and I don't know that I would have ever done anything. But at the end of the day, that was always in the back of my mind, because I grew up with all boys, and I saw how disgusting they were. I mean, and I'm just going to be honest, they are disgusting when it came to women. I mean, the things that they would say to women, and I would just be like, I'm never going to let a guy, like, I think I didn't fall for it because I saw them do it in living color. And I just could not believe that the guilt trips and all of those things that will go into just some of the things that my uncles and cousins did. It's just insane. And even me having sons, I told my daughter, she said, they're just so disgusting. I can't wait till I get a boyfriend of my own. And I said, you better pay attention to them, because this is what they probably gonna be like behind closed doors. They're giving you an inner glimpse of what men really sometimes think and how they maneuver with women. So yeah, but yeah, I think you can turn a hoe into a husband, though. You know, I dated a whole hoe one time and ain't nobody tell me nothing.
You did what?
I dated a whole hoe one time and ain't nobody tell me nothing. I ain't even know he Derrick Jacksoned me. I thought he was I was like, most of the hoes I dated, I knew they was hoes, but this one I didn't think he was no hoe. But
he was a surprise. He was an in the closet hoe. He was a R. Kelly hoe, y'all.
Yeah, he was the biggest hoe.
Jeez.
Yeah, but both of you are absolutely right, though. But with this, you know, with male and female, we have this thing called ladylike. And then we have this thing called manly. So we both have to kind of veer off into what those things mean for us. Just like you said, the standard has already been set. So, I mean, it is what it is. We weren't there when they were setting it, so we had no input in what was to be, you know, considered ladylike or manly in that sense. But I think now it's just time to kind of break away from stereotypes and standards and whatever people are doing statistically, and just be you. Like, people are being more free. They're figuring out who they are, you know, trying new things. A lot of, you know, females have more masculine energy than feminine. So they tend to do certain things that, you know, are seen as manly, and vice versa. So I think it's just, you know, it should be fluid either way. But to kind of get back to the topic, can you turn a hoe into a husband? I think we already established that you can't really change anyone, but are we? I mean, people try it every day. Let's just be honest. Like, we try to do this all the time, and I just don't know how it works out. But you know.
Yeah, I think a hoe can be transformed into a husband. But I don't think that you can actually do it yourself. They have to want to be transformed, and they have to want to undergo the work. And that's why I say oftentimes people say that they want to do it, and then they don't understand the amount of work that it really happens. They change relationship to relationship because the only thing that they've done is remove themselves from a situation. They didn't do the work that they needed to not be the hoe, or not to be toxic, or not to be any, because they're taking themselves with them wherever they go. So they just hoeing all over the world.
So let's talk about
Dang.
About
Now,
what that looks like. Like, okay, somebody's watching the show and they're just like, oh, I'm guilty. This is me. I want to be better. Like, what steps do I take? Like, what does that process even look like?
I can tell you from my first marriage, he said that really he just had to figure out why he wanted to be a hoe. You know, I mean, just like
That's
what
good
was
though.
it in him
That's
that
real.
made him want to like, and it really came down to trying to prove things and look a certain way in front of other men. Like I got all of this going on. And when he became
Right.
comfortable with himself, he made the switch.
Right.
So you know, a reason why our marriage ending wasn't infidelity, but he was. I think I might got a thing for hoes. They say men love hoes. I think I love them too. Cause I mean, they've done the work. You know what I mean? But it wasn't anything that I could do because I remember yelling till I was blue in the face and being concerned and wondering, not ever catching any infidelity, but wondering and questioning. And then I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. But they had to get to a point where they were comfortable in their own skin and figured out what it was to make them want to hold around.
You said a whole lot.
Change it. They had to decide to change it.
You said a whole lot though, and a lot of what you just said was the fact that he knew, but I believe that we can't change them, but I believe that if we are true to who we are and we love who we are, they could change their ways based on love that we might be giving them to really reflect on the moves that they're making, to understand that they don't have to be this whole when they have what they need.
I think but
it's still willing. They have to be willing to transition, like what you said, Isha. I mean, because man, one of my first boyfriends was a hoe. I had no clue. For the first 2 years, I had no clue. And I started kind of like stuff just wasn't adding up. So I was young. I was like 17 at the time, 17, 18. So stuff just wasn't adding up. You know, he would say stuff and so stuff starting to click. And I'm like, something ain't right. You know?
What does a hoe say? What's a hoish term that is? What's the definition of a hoe? I think we should have started with
Go ahead and look that up. You're right. Normally I do start with words. You're right. But at the same token, I didn't understand his ways. So it wasn't, he made it seem like it was just me. It was me and other chicks. And I had no clue. No clue. Until stuff started being fishy, like a brick being thrown through my window. That's a female type thing, right? Geez. You know what I'm saying? That just doesn't randomly happen. So when that happened, and like literally dropped on my windshield in my car, I'm like, okay, what's going on? Asking the questions. Then I started paying attention to the patterns, and then stuff just started clicking. And so my thing is this: when a hoe gets caught, why they want to be all, oh, I'm sorry, I love you. No, you don't. You a hoe. Like, stay where you at. Like, stay in your world, fam. Like, stay right there.
So, yeah, ain't nobody trying to get caught, even if you ain't sorry. So that's the part right there. I don't all the time. And
I don't want no part.
Do with hoeing. I just I'm sorry, but I ain't want to get caught. So I was sorry I got caught. And I think that's true.
Say that then. Say you sorry you got caught and leave it at that. Because you really ain't sorry.
But one of the things that I think that we have to make sure that we define is that understanding who you are in the relationship.
Right.
Because some people call people hoes and you're not their significant other. So you are just one of their pieces too, but you got caught up in maybe hanging out with them and being around them and being in a sort of relationship with them for a long time, but they've never said you were their girlfriend or boyfriend, and you were never engaged, and you were never, because I see situations like that where the man or a woman will continuously say, I'm not your boyfriend, I'm not your girlfriend. And then people ultimately
I'm in an entanglement.
I'm
in an entanglement.
Right, but then they when you treat them well, then they get feelings, and because they have feelings, and they attach expectations to those feelings when there was never a conversation to say what we were in the first place. And at that point, I think that you got to bite your own bullet and charge that to the game. Like if I told you we ain't together, I mean, you can call me what you want to call me, but am I cheating? Am I I said I wasn't with you. So at that point, you got to charge that to the game. Because I've seen situations where people like, he just a hoe. And I'm like, well, he said he wants your boyfriend. It's not his fault that you stuck around for a year trying to change his mind.
Dang. Let's talk about that. You said something really powerful. And Marcus, you can chime in on this when you can really relate to what I'm getting ready to say. A lot of times women feel like, oh, I can change him. If I continue to be who I am, or even extra, I can change his ways. Are you familiar with that, Marcus? Have you ever experienced that as a man?
Unfortunately, right? So unfortunately, right? That's the thing with that. That we do that too often. We do that way too often, unfortunately. And we try and wait around and stick around and hold out just a little bit longer. We do it. Unfortunately, a lot of things we do it at our jobs, right? If I stay with this company a little bit longer, right, before even taking this step, when actuality, you really want to be an entrepreneur, right? You really want to go start that business. You really want to go start your own thing. We stick around way too long. When we should have just cut the cord at maybe even the first sign of trouble. When we saw the initial warning bell, we should have just walked away at that point, right? And again, that's our choice. No one can ever take your freedom away. No one can ever take that choice away, right? If he wants to play around or if she wants to play around, then you leave them in that foolishness and you just continue to walk away. And that's the point of division is the hard part, because we get so entangled. Unfortunately, we have kids, we buy property together, we start businesses together. Now we've created this conundrum of entanglement that if we were to unwind all of this, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt me, and it may even undo a lot of work that you put into it. And so why so walk away early. Walk away as soon as you can. And again, we should enter relationships, and we should enter anything that we do with the intention of saying, with a clean slate, I'm gonna let this canvas develop. I'm gonna go in with a blank canvas and let the canvas develop. And if the ears start looking funny, or if this starts looking funny, then it's up for me to make a decision at that point, instead of me trying to say, well, let me fix it, right? Let me fix the nose. Let me make this nose a little bit sharper, or the chin a little bit better. No, stop. Let it develop on its own. And then if you don't like it, walk away. But don't try and stick around and fix it. Right. That's what we do too much of.
I know that's some advice that a lot of people wish they had before they got stuck in these long-term relationships. But you said something, and you said walk away early. But the early stages are that honeymoon phase. So that's when you really get wrapped up and caught up in, the puppy love and everything that's going on. So when you think it's something that is not, and then it starts to develop, and then everything starts to unfold, and you start to see all of the discrepancies and that type of thing. So that's where it gets kind of hard. So it sounds good saying walk away, but that's the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing to do.
And
I think that what happens a lot of times in that stage is that we see it, we just make excuses for it. And we say it's really not that, it'll be okay, because we are in such a honeymoon stage and we're in such a lovey-dovey place, is that we see the red flags and then we just be like, oh, it'll be different, that'll change, and then we make excuses for it. And so then at that point, now we're all the way in, and now we're trying to backpedal, or we're holding on because we don't want somebody else to have them. We don't want to look stupid. We don't want to let go. We think they can change. I done put all this time in. I'm going to make sure that he does this for me. I ain't make him no good man for somebody else. Well, at the end of the day, he's not a good person for you, or she's not a good person for you, and toxic is toxic. So all you're doing is really putting yourself into a
conundrum.
A conundrum. Yes, that's the word. So I just think that it's important. And I think a lot of that comes with not knowing who you are. When you don't know who you are, it's easier to make excuses for things. And we've all done it, and we all do it, because no matter how much I learn about me, I get into situations all the time because I might feel sorry for somebody, or I want to help them, or I just love them so much. And if they just could see how much I love them, if they could just feel it, if they could see it, they could see themselves the way that I see them, then this would be great. And guess what? It's not great. It's never great. We're always picking up the pieces later, and then we've wasted time that we can't get back.
But you know who can be your saving grace in those moments is a community, right?
Yeah.
Who you surround yourself with.
Yes.
One of the biggest things that if you ever notice, if you ever look at narcissists, the first thing they do is they sever ties, right? They sever those deep connections with your friends and family because they know those people see you, and those are the people that are going to pull you back when you start going too deep. When you start walking out in the deep. And so that's what narcissists do, right? They start cutting you off. Why are you always talking to your mama? Why are you always talking to she ain't no good? But really, that's the person who sees the trouble, right? Because they're so far removed and they don't have the googly eyes and they don't have the honeymoon phase. And so that's what narcissists do. They cut you off. They cut ties. They make sure they cut off the people who's gonna pull the wool over and reveal the wolf underneath that sheep's clothing. And so that's the thing, is we have to surround ourselves and make sure that we keep a good quality, wholesome community around us. And so when we get those googly eyes, you know, Nicole Takara gonna come in and say, Marcus, what in the world? That girl, you know, that girl got three eyes. She got 3 eyeballs, Marcus. You don't see the 3 eyeballs. Well, you know, it's cute. You know, she put makeup on it. She put an eyelash on it. It looked cute. No, Mark, she got 3 eyeballs, right? Takara is so far removed that she will bring me back to reality and say, Marcus, that's not your type. And so surround yourself with quality, wholesome people always.
Two things. Onyx, I love how we are in sync, because that's the one thing that we hear a lot of women say. Well, I done did all this work. I done put all this time. I done did this. I done did that. There's no way that I'm going to do bop, 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 woo, 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 and just let him be somebody else's. You know, and it's like, no, boo, like, he really ain't yours if he ain't trying to commit anyways. If he really don't want to be with you anyways, so what work did you really put in? How about you change the perspective and say, you know what? I've learned a valuable lesson. I will not travel down this road again. Now I know that the red flags are really red. They're not magenta. They're not dark orange. They're really red. And so for me to be able to build upon that and move forward instead of feeling like we just wasted time. I don't look at it like that anymore. Because there was a time and space that I did look at it like that. Like, I'm wasting my time being with you for 5 years, 3 years. Right. What am I learning from, you know, this, or all the energy, you know, the money spent and all these things, like counting it up that way, but not really counting it up to my mental capacity has grown so much that I can do bop, bop, bop because I used to move in this way. So really changing the lenses or your perspective on, okay, yeah, this relationship ended like this, and instead of saying, oh, this relationship ended like this, but, because when you put the but in there, now it's like everything's going to be negative. Well, the end means that you have the power to continue and build your story based on what you've been through. So, I mean, there's such a different way to look at it. That's one. Second, Marcus, you killing me. So you said something really important. You talked about community. Love it. However, when you're in that place and space, one thing, you're embarrassed. 2, who do I really trust? Or in my escape voice, who can I run to really be able to say, hey, this is what's really going on in my relationship. Because a lot of times some relationships look so amazing, especially that whole fake book life. And then now here's the nitty gritty of what's going on behind the scenes. And so now I have to be vulnerable enough to really share with you what's really going on. Can you handle what's really going on and speak to me from a healthy perspective? Not the, girl, let me tell you, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear all the neck rolling and eye rolling. You know, I need somebody who's going to speak to where I'm at and be real with me, instead of, you know, or who's been bruised, broken, and bitter themselves, or who may still be in those places and now spewing on me. So really being intentional about the tribe that we really have around us to be able to say, you know what, look, this is what's going on. You know, and not more like, oh, what should I do? Because that's not the question that we should be asking them per se. We need support in that capacity, because the thing is we really have to be careful about who we take advice from anyways, because they don't know the totality of what we've been through. They're just hearing a snippet. They're just coming in on scene 3 when there's 193 scenes within, you know, the relationship. So just being really intentional about what you say, community. I love that. And I've learned that because there's people who I've confided in the past where, I mean, you talking about you pour water out and it's all over the floor like this, you know what I'm saying? So they, you know, you have leaky people. I can't roll with leaky people no more.
I think that waiting till you get in a situation in a relationship to determine that is way too late. We can determine those leaky people up front. And when I have an instance, because I done had a situation, Takara, no, I told her about it. I had a situation of a leaky person. I suspected them of being leaky. So I told them something, only them, and it was a complete lie. When I tell you that that came back to me, I'm in the Virginia Beach area in Virginia. Washington, D.C. is 3 hours away. When I tell you it came back through my sister from someone in Washington, D.C., and I had made my sister part of the lie, forgot to tell my sister that I lied on her, and my sister came and she brought that to me. But she my sister, so of course she covered, and she said, why would they think that? And I said, oh, I forgot all about it. This was 3 months ago. Glad it happened, though, because now I know how that this person is a leaky person, and though I handle them a certain way, because sometimes you cut a snake's head off and sometimes you become a snake charmer. Just depends on what you need. I handle them differently. And they consistently wonder why our relationship isn't the same, because I kept getting so much information back, and you don't need to know, because it's nothing that can destroy me. It's nothing that's going to hurt me. The pain came from me thinking that you were my friend and you weren't. Right. But once I got over that hurt, I just handle them how they are, and they have no idea.
Jesus, where's the church choir when you need them?
Look, it's real, so this is why, I love this platform to be able to talk about these things, because the thing is that women need to understand that you're not a hoe, period. I hate the word. Well, you're not just a hoe. You don't have to take on those feelings and emotions of that. So some you got women out here who, like, I've been labeled a hoe, and they might have done what they done years ago and really have it embedded in their head, and they can't even get into a relationship, or they can't be consistent with a relationship because of the trauma of being labeled as that when they may have been going through whatever they've been going through, whatever time and season of their life. So that's the other thing, when labels, let's talk about that. Being labeled a hoe, does that mean that you're always going to be a hoe? Absolutely not. It goes back to the quote that you should put, if you're willing to transform to be more than what you currently are, then that's a decision and that's a choice. But I believe sometimes when we are around people and like, oh, you're a hoe, or that person has been called a hoe, it's 10 years later. Where's the grace?
That's true, but I asked the question. I'm just going to say this. I had a girl tell me she'd been called a hoe, and a guy told me that he'd be called the slut. You know what I asked both of them? I said, are you? Because I want to know, like, are you? Do you think that's what you are? Because I think people get the truth and the fact confused. Because if I was a hoe when I was 20 and I'm 45 and I'm not hoeing anymore, and somebody calls me, they say, oh, you a hoe. Well, the fact is that I was a hoe when I was 20, but the truth is I'm not anymore. So when people aren't comfortable with who they are, they don't even know how to define themselves in that way. So that's why they get hurt when people call them those things. So that's why the work is so necessary. So if you're the person that's being called a hoe, or even if you're the person that feels that it's necessary for you to label people in that way, there is work that both of you need to do, and you don't know what it is inside of you that's causing you to be hurt by those triggers, or for you to actually call someone that. So people just have to do the work on both ends, because if I ain't knowing no more, it ain't nothing. Listen, ain't nothing you gonna say. I'll be like Eminem up there. Please tell them something about me that they don't know.
Right. And that's true, right? Labels oftentimes don't follow growth. If you ever look back at the people who label you, right? They're so far removed from you. There's been such a gap. Like, I had a gentleman, we grew up together. We went to high school, and the dude in high school, all he has of me is how I was in high school. He has no idea who Marcus Norman is today. And so labels typically don't follow the individual, right? And they stick right where they're at. So this dude had the nerve, right? He's now a teacher at my high school. Back home, and my sister went to the high school. My baby sister went to the high school. You know what this cat told my baby sister, who then told me? He told me that I was a very awkward person in high school. I am 33 years old. So the label is stuck. That individual only has one impression of me, and he failed to grow with me. And the simple reason why is because I cut him off. And so the only thing he can say about me is what he remembers. And typically labels stick with where you left it at. And so if I was a whole, just like what Masonic said, if I was a whole, then that stipulation is going to stick right there. And as she grows, as she develops, as she does blockbusters and she transitions, the label is still going to be there, but it's stuck right there and it'll never move again. And just like you said, is it true? No, I'm not a hoe. I used to be, not anymore.
And I love that you said labels don't follow growth, because I think that's true on both sides. When I think about people from high school, I don't think nothing, because guess what? I don't know who they are. When I go to the high school reunion, a lot of times I don't even remember if somebody called somebody something in high school, because in high school, I left high school years ago, but a lot of times that's someone's only claim to fame. And that's when they were their most popular. So I'm going to remember everything about you in high school, and I'm going to carry that with me through my life. And I see that, and I often think that that's sad, because I wonder, what have you accomplished in your life that you remember something so insignificant from high school? I don't know who was awkward in high school. I don't even know who I had beef with in high school. I mean, one person, but I beat her. I mean, you know, we're not talking about violence, but but other than that, I don't remember. I just don't remember, because what I've accomplished in my life. High school was such a fun time, but it was such an insignificant part of my life. And as you grow and get new barriers and create and achieve new things, then you're continuously expanding. I don't even know what I said to somebody yesterday. I'm just gonna be honest. So that was perfect about labels don't follow growth, because I think that happens on both sides. When you are when you want to stick somebody with a label from that long ago, there is something inside of you as well.
Yes. Pause for the cause. We got a really quick commercial break. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. We're back. One of the dopest sponsors that Vault Talks Women Share has, TCS. Thank you so much. Business in a box. It'll save your life. I'm a product user of it, and I absolutely adore it. So is Onyx, and it works amazingly. When you are on the go, you just ain't got time to do some stuff. It's amazing. But anyways, so let's go back to this quote that you dropped on us, Marcus, with the label and just the stickiness of that, the residue of the label when we're trying to peel it off, and you can literally see the stickiness having that it doesn't want to leave from the sticker, but yet it needs to, like, you know, have you ever peeled a sticker off of a glass and then you got to go back and rub it with something because it's still on there? That's what I feel like with labels. Like, literally, when we label people and we're like, you know what, I'm no longer that, and it's like somebody is going to come and remind you of who you were for a couple of reasons. One, that's all they know is who you were, because they're not current with who you are and who you're becoming. And so, you know, I believe, like you said, Onyx, it's really key that we do know who we are, because literally that can trigger us to really, you know, reflect and, well, am I still a hoe? I mean, it sounds really stupid, but words are just that powerful, and labels are even more powerful. So thank you for bringing it up, Marcus. So wanting to be intentional and present with tonight's topic. For those of you who may just be joining us, welcome. Vault Talks Women Share every fourth Thursday night. We talk about he said, she said, they share. This topic is literally one that was on my mind. I'm like, look, let's talk about it. Can you turn a hoe into a husband? And basically where that comes from is a lot of time women are labeled as hoes. And the saying goes a little something where women can't be turned into housewives. So let's reverse it as it's he said, she said, they share, and really talk in dialogue around that. You know, it's possible, as if you guys are just tuning in, each influencer hit us with a really powerful quote just talking about you have to be willing to transform, period. So here we are dialoguing. We have about a good 15 minutes left of the show. So really want to make sure that we end the show with a healthy, resolution around this topic. We're not having anybody lingering and wondering, because there might be somebody out here who may be wondering this because of their past and the things that they've been through. Can I really be transformed? And can it really happen for me? And so I love this because, just my some of my experiences with people that I've hung out with, like I've really seen them be that person that used to be pretty promiscuous. I wouldn't go as far as calling them a hoe, but they've settled down, have kids, engaged, married, really just out here, living their best life. But once was, kind of out there trying to figure it out. So, it's definitely possible.
And I think that's a lot of people's story too. Like you said, just trying to figure it out, even with men, you know what I mean? They sleep around for numerous reasons. But we have to realize that,
Mark, stop it.
Sorry.
It's true. But we have to realize that, men are people too. They have feelings just like we do. They are, confused and lost and trying to figure out life. And, we look at them and we think that they got it all together and they rule the world. Like, it's a man's world, but you still have to find your way within it. So just going back to saying why people do certain things, I think it's really good to take the time out to, like we've been talking about, really get to know who you are and why you move the way that you move, not just with sex and relationships, but with a lot of different areas in life. And you will come to the conclusion to know, okay, this is who I am. This is what triggers me. This is why I do this, and etc. So as far as the solution for if someone is thinking about changing or transforming, Marcus, what would you say, like the first step for, let's say the man to do, since we are talking about men, what would you say that first step would be in order for them to really make that transformation?
Absolutely. So the first step, great question. One of the first steps is what you and Miss Onyx and Mr. Carr mentioned earlier, is admitting it, right? Coming, and Miss Onyx called it out earlier, is realizing that I am a hoe, right? Realizing that I have this obsession, I have this promiscuity, I have this attraction to multiple women, right? Or multiple partners, because there are some men who are on the down low. So I'll just say partners, right? So once you admit to yourself and you confess and say, man, I do have this problem, that's the first step. And then once you realize that, you have to replace it. So one of the things in addictions, any addiction, right? A smoker has to develop a new habit. And so as that smoker transitions and get rid of the nicotine, he has to replace that with something. And so the same thing, once I acknowledge that I have a problem, and sometimes the replacement is, I have a beautiful woman that loves me. I have beautiful kids that love me. Why am I cheating on them? Why am I being promiscuous? And sometimes I have now replaced my addiction with a whole family, my beautiful family, sometimes. And that's the goal, right? But that's where it starts. You have to admit that you have the problem, and then you have to work through that and realize that I have value here. There's something bigger. There's something more valuable than this one night stand, this side chick, right? This entanglement that I have now developed. There's a bigger value over here. So if the man who was cheating on you realizes, man, I have a good thing. I have a beautiful woman, loves me. I met a woman the other day. She was paying her man child support. I'm like, Lord Jesus, your side chick ain't paying your child support. You have a woman that loves you, that is helping you through a transition in your life. And when he realized, and now they're married, when he realized that he had something better, he changed because he replaced that addiction with something that was more precious to him. And so that's the start. And that's where that's the direction you should go.
That's good. Onyx, what do you have anything to add? Like what do you think the first steps that a man should take in order to make that change?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that, I think the only other thing I would say is they got to ask themselves, do they really want to change? Because people front, you know what I mean? Like, I'll say that I want to change, and people will go through the process of acting like it, but it never lasts long because they really don't want to do it anyway, because they don't see that there's an issue and they're really not ready to settle down. They may have a beautiful wife and they may have the family and they may love them the best that they know how. And I think that's one of the things that we get confused is we want people to love us. Well, I love them this way. Well, they may be loving you with everything that they have, and they just might not honestly want to give up that part of their life yet. So they just have to be honest about where you are. And I had a conversation with my son about this. He's young, and he told me he's just not ready to give up that part of his life. When I asked him about my grandchildren, he said, "Mom, I'm just not ready." And that's what I told his mom, I'm not ready. I don't want to be in a relationship because I don't want to be one girl's man right now. He was like, eventually. And I think that's hard for people to hear when you're not the girl that can change the guy.
Wow. That's amazing that you say that. And I would have to agree with that until you realize that it's not your responsibility to change them. But that takes work. That takes you, getting to a place where you wake up literally, and whatever that looks like for you. And that can be a tough thing because even, I agree with this statement that I'm getting ready to say. So, women can change the world, right? Women are very powerful. However, when we take that statement and run, and we take that statement and put on our cape, we take that statement and put on our gloves and get to work. And that's not what that means in that particular situation where we can't change people. Now, I feel that we can influence people to change, but actually doing the work for them to change, that's impossible.
But we'll do it.
We'll try.
We'll try to do the work for them.
We will try to do it and wonder why we're exhausted physically, mentally, spiritually, because we're handling something that we ain't even supposed to be having our hands on to begin with.
And not even handling our own stuff the way that we need to. I think a lot of times we put, our security in making the other person better because it'll make us look good and it'll make us not have to do the work that we're pushing them to do. So if you turn all that energy around on yourself, put all that, I'm trying, I'm this, I'm that into you, then that person will see the value in you, like Marcus was saying, and they'll see, okay, yeah, this is something worth being faithful to, loyal to. I'm committed to this, because the more you are you, the more people are attracted to, the things that you can do, the things that you bring to the table. It's because it's a lot of nagging going on when you're trying to change somebody. And that pushes them further away, from the situation. So your best bet is to bet on you, like focus all that energy on yourself.
Amen.
That's good, Aisha. And I definitely agree with that because I think too, the more that you are you, the less likely you're going to even put yourself in those situations. Because when you know your own worth and you know where you stand, you might do it for a little bit and you'll be like,
right.
This looks familiar.
No.
This ain't it.
This ain't it. 1, 2, 3, not
this
it.
Not the one.
Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. And the one thing that I had to really check myself on with a situation was if somebody came to me and asked for my advice, what would I tell them? And it contradicted what I was doing in the situation. So I wasn't even willing to take my own medicine. So it's like, have those.
Swallow the pill.
Have those moments right there. What would you really tell somebody else if they were in your shoes?
Right.
So, really being able to understand, the power of doing that work and to be present within your decisions and to understand that if you have to walk away from something, okay, it's not like it's, you're not going to get that back. You're going to get that back and more because you walked away from that situation, whether it be
Right.
the job or the personal relationship or the business relationship or whatever that experience looks like, right? But a lot of times it's just that whole fear over faith that really operates, bigger and stronger than we're really willing to be vulnerable and talk about. Oh, I'm good. No, boo, you're struggling.
Right.
You about to fall apart. You're allowing this fear to really take you out. You're allowing this fear to mix with your identity blueprint, and now you being somebody else and you're not being true to you. No, you're really moving in a direction. You're moving forward when you just need to stand still. No, and just being honest with yourself. And I think sometimes we don't want to be honest with ourselves because the honest answers have to come out, and we don't want to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
Even though when it's needed. So we are wrapping up Vault Talks Women Share for this night. I love that you guys have come to the show and gave so much value. I believe we tackled the question. You guys I feel like we gave some valuable nuggets out here tonight. But what I want to do is give you guys a minute or less to just wrap up your feelings and emotions and expertise. Hold on, let me just give a disclaimer. We are not therapists. Okay. So, don't say I got this information from Vault Talks Women Share and email me and tell me what you did or didn't do. That's not it. We are here to talk and share from a place and space that we've experienced in one time in our life, or people that we know that have dealt with this and we have been that person for them. So, or, just really from that place and space. So with that being said, I'm going to keep you for last, Marcus, since you're the only male on the panel. Onyx, my love, a minute or less, what would you say?
I'm wrapping up, right?
You're wrapping it up.
I would just say love you enough to not put yourself in those situations and go on the journey of figuring out who you are and what you want and what you deserve. Because once you determine your own self-worth, you won't be worried about if you can turn a home into a housewife or a house husband. You'll be worried about elevating yourself. And then those things will be added onto you.
Come on, quoting scripture. Come on, you gotta quote the scripture there. Add it onto you. I see you.
Yeah.
All right.
That was good.
Isha?
Of course, I agree with everything Onyx just said. And I was going to say, like, pretty much everything we talk about on this show all goes back to self. Like, we have to bring it back home and really focus on us. Because like she said, once you elevate, you'll attract the people that you want in your life. And you won't have to worry about turning this hoe into a husband or whatever. So, I mean, that's the remedy for this, is elevate yourself and attract like people.
That's good. Marcus.
What? There's one more lady in it. I thought I was loud.
I guess I go. I do agree with everything that's been said from Isha as well as Onyx. The one thing that I do want to say is that when you are really determined to be all that you've been created to be, you really start doing that inner work and the reflection on the words that people have spoken over you in some shape or capacity. It may not be called a hoe. For me, it was being called stupid, and by family members, and really having to do that inner work. Am I really stupid? Or those feelings and emotions when I even hear the word stupid. I don't like that word, period. Just because of the things that I've gone through in my childhood when I had to hear the word and really having to do the work. Well, am I stupid? No, I'm not. But the words have energy in it, and they can literally bring you things that you really have to do the work to dismantle. And so really understanding that you're not a hoe unless you really are a hoe. But understanding that you don't have to stay in the place of being something that you don't want to be. You have the power to be able to shift when you're willing to do the work and stay committed to doing the work. The consistency will pay off, and you will be able to be the person that you desire to be and knew that you could be all along. but you have to be consistent and willing to do to bring change into your own life first. Put on your mask first before you help somebody else. So being able to really do the work to get you under wraps before you try to even, can I turn somebody into something else? No. Can I turn me into who I need to be and attract whatever it is that I need, whether it be resources, people, whatever that looks like for your life, not for anybody else's life, but for yours.
I got 15 seconds. I got 10 seconds.
Good.
All right. So, well done, ladies. Great job. That all of that is true, right? And to stay on topic, but to give a last bit of nugget is to can you turn a hoe into a husband? You can't. I'm gonna stick with what I said earlier. You can't change anyone. You can't change anyone. All you can change is yourself. And so value yourself enough, value who you are enough, and continue to grow and continue to develop and continue to build on the one person, the one thing you can control in this life. And that's you. And everything else will draw into you because of who you are.
Boom. Yes. It has been another amazing episode of He Said, She Said, They Share in the books. Tune in for Bonus Thursday, which means it's the 5th Thursday. You don't know what we're going to talk about next week. So you want to make sure that you tune in. And remember, it's the last Thursday that you will be catching Vault Talks Women Share at 6:30 Central Standard Time. As of the first Thursday in May, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, we are going to be bugging you to remind you very kindly, because we want to make sure that you are in the place, in the space to get everything you need from this platform, because we are indeed positioned to serve. Much love. Thank you to our amazing guests. Thank you, Onyx. Thank you, Marcus. Virginia is in the place tonight, showing up and showing out. Thank you so much. We love you guys so much. To our viewers, mwah, much love, and we out. Peace. Boom.